Hey, welcome back to Life on the Wrist. Hope you're doing well. Happy Monday, everyone. Welcome back to the week. I hope everyone had a wonderful weekend. Today, we're going to be continuing our series of the watches that we saw in the Delta lounges. This is the month of August of 2019. This was a very, very exciting month for me. I think people were, getting in their last minute travels before entering into the fall or having their kids going back to school, as well as getting back into the swing of things with their work travels. So it was a very cool very cool month for the watches that I saw on people's wrists, and I'm excited to go into the watches that I saw. Before we get into that, and if you haven't watched any of our videos previously, I say this at the beginning of every video, if you wouldn't mind giving us a thumbs up on this video, just for the fact that we traveled this month. Anyway, just if you wouldn't mind doing that, that would be greatly appreciated. And also, if you are new to the channel, we create videos about watches, so if you do like that type of content, we create videos about just about anything when it comes to watches, so definitely hit that subscribe button. It's right by that like button, so they're very, very close, not very much of a far leap from the two, so it's not going to be too much more effort. But anyway, let's get into the watches that we saw on people's wrists. So the first watch we saw was a Cartier Santos. This was a two-tone version of it. It was a vintage Cartier Santos, which was very, very cool. A few things came to mind when I saw this watch. The first was that the fact that people are really getting into vintage Cartier. People previously, there was a lot of there was a rush towards sports watches, but people are slowly getting into a little bit more elegant dress watches, and Cartier is the perfect brand to go to. It was cool that I was able to see someone wearing a Santos as opposed to a tank. The tanks have become extremely popular within the vintage watch collecting, or just watch collecting in general. But this was cool that someone was wearing a Santos. The Santos is a little bit more sporty. It's still kind of, I would consider it a dress watch, especially I think this one was around 33 or 35 millimeters. I'm not sure of the reference or anything like that, but it was, I kind of could gauge the size. It was very, very elegantly worn. It's a little bit more sporty than the tank, so you can kind of go between the two types of environments a little bit smoother than the tank. So that was the first thing, the fact that Cartier has become extremely desired by people who collect watches. The second was the fact that it was a two-tone watch. I don't know if you guys remember, but at Basel World this past year in 2019, a lot more watch companies were experimenting with that two-tone effect. The perfect example is Tudor, who came out with a lot of watches that were of two-tone metals, and that was quite cool. This watch was really a testament and kind of validated the fact that these companies were going towards two-tone, because people are wanting to wear two-tone watches a little bit more. Perfect example is people wearing two-tone Datejust a lot more, when a lot of the purists would say you should have it of the same metal. I think it's really cool that people are wearing two-tone. It's a cool stylistic point that's coming about, so very, very cool. I also like the fact that, so that was the kind of the two things I thought about. I like the fact that the size of this watch on this gentleman's wrist was a little bit smaller, very, very elegant. If you want to look to someone who wears extremely elegant watches, just look at John Goldberger. I know that's not his real name, but John Goldberger wears extremely elegant watches and is a huge proponent for Cartier as a brand. I watched a video recently where he went through his collection of Cartier Cintrés, which was a very cool video. If you haven't seen that, I think it was Revolution Watch that came out with that, so check that out. So I like the elegant size, and it was really just a beautiful watch. So that was the first watch I saw on someone's wrist. The second watch that I saw on someone's wrist was a Black Dial Explorer 2 from Rolex. I think the Explorer 2 is some of the best value that you can get within the Rolex lineup at this current moment in time. If you look at Submariners or Daytonas, they're relatively expensive compared to the Explorer 2. It's great value, and you're getting that sports watch trend that everyone is desiring right now. I also like the fact that it has the GMT function. I think John Mayer, in his first Talking Watches, spoke about how the fact that the GMT function was one of the coolest apps on your watch, kind of like how a phone has an app. So cool to have that GMT function, and obviously the watch was worn on a bracelet by this gentleman, so had that sporty vibe that everyone is so desiring. So that was the second watch that I saw. Obviously the black dial is, you have to have that type of, you want to make sure that that's your taste to have that black dial. I think I prefer the white dial, which kind of brings me on to the third watch that I saw. This was actually a couple that was wearing two watches, which I thought was very, very cool. The gentleman was wearing a white dial Rolex Explorer 2, and the lady was wearing a Ladies Datejust. The Ladies Datejust I thought was very, very cool, and a little bit more unique than the gentleman's watch, because it was a black dial with diamond hour markers, which was very, very elegantly done, which I liked a lot. A few things came to mind when I saw this on these two people's wrists. The first was the fact that it was very, very cool that a couple was into watches together. I don't know if perhaps the man got the woman into the watches, or perhaps the woman got the man into watches, but either way, it's very cool that they got to, they're sharing the passion for watches that so many of us have. And let's be real, women and watches is a perfect combination. So like I said, the Explorer 2 with the white dial is a little bit more to my taste. I think the dial, being that it's white, it pops a little bit more, and allows you to, I don't know, it has a better presence on the wrist, I feel. And the Ladies Datejust I really enjoyed as well. The fact that the hour markers were diamonds may set some people off on this watch. They probably wouldn't, enjoy wearing it. However, I think it was cool. The diamonds were not, baguettes and very garishly done. They were just very, I think they're factory set, very simply done diamonds, which it's just so elegant. And like I said, a woman with a watch is a great combination. And so that brings me to the last watch. And this watch I'm just puzzled with, and I'll put up the pictures that I took of this watch, because I didn't know how to really handle it. The last watch I saw was a Patek Philippe Nautilus. I don't know what the reference was because I didn't speak with the gentleman about this watch, but unfortunately I couldn't figure out a lot about this watch because I didn't know if it was fake or not. And I think I kind of have to lean on you guys to figure out if this watch is real or fake. I'll put up the picture that I took of this watch to kind of give you an idea of what I was seeing. It just looked too bulky to be a Nautilus, in my opinion. I didn't know if perhaps it was just the size of the gentleman's wrist, or perhaps the watch was simply fake, but I couldn't tell if it was real or fake, and I probably should have asked some questions about the reference or to see it, because if I got to examine the watch, I think I could have figured out if it was real or not. But let's talk about both sides. So if it was fake, I find it very unfortunate that the gentleman had to buy a fake watch, especially being that it was a Patek Philippe. I've made a video previously and I got a very controversial, it's a controversial topic just in general, but I don't believe that you should buy a fake watch. There are multiple reasons for it, but I think that your money can be better spent elsewhere. I think that buying a fake Patek Philippe Nautilus is, it's not helping out the brand in any way, and just, I don't know, I would just feel dishonest owning it. So sucks that he had to buy a fake watch, on one hand. On the other hand, if it was real, this is a really cool watch to be wearing on your wrist, and you probably are very, very proud of wearing it. There are waiting lists for people trying to get Patek Philippe Nautiluses, and they're going for astronomical prices compared to what they retail for. And if he was able to wear it, what a beautiful watch to have from Patek Philippe. It's arguably one of the most desired watches within the modern Patek Philippe lineup right now, and I give him full credit, and I hope he's enjoying it, if it is in fact real. I did take pictures, so you've probably seen them by now. Please let me know what you think. If you do think it's real, let me know so I can correct my statement. If you think it's fake, let me know too. That would also help us out. So those were the watches that I saw in the lounge. Let me just recap really quick. The first was a Cartier Santos in a two-tone style. The second was a Rolex Explorer 2 in a black dial, with a black dial. The third was a couple who was wearing, the gentleman was wearing a Rolex Explorer 2 white dial, and the lady was wearing a Ladies Datejust with beautiful diamonds, a beautiful diamond dial on a black dial. And the last watch I saw was a Patek Philippe Nautilus. It was real, it was fake. I need you guys to help me out to figure out if you think it's one or the other. But it was still a really cool month. Like I said, people were out in full force. Maybe it was you know, their gift to themselves for completing another year of, you know, whatever they were doing. But they had some very cool watches. I obviously tried to do some of the newer ones that I haven't discussed on this series previously. There were obviously, you know, Rolex Submariners, Rolex Submariners, Seikos, all kinds of stuff on people's wrists, but I didn't want to, you know, be redundant in this series. So hope you enjoyed the watches that I picked to discuss today. And if you have made it this far and you haven't already, and I said it in the beginning of the video, if you haven't subscribed to our channel, really would help us out, and leave a like on this video too. If you like the watches that we saw on people's wrists, let us know in the comments below what you thought about the watches. Also, let me know what you wore regularly this month, or what watches you saw on people's wrists if you were traveling. I forgot to discuss the watch that I saw, that I wore regularly. It was actually the Vintage Omega Seamaster that is available in our shop. It's not available anymore, unfortunately, but that was the watch that I wore regularly this month. So that was I think I wore it just because I didn't it was going to be sad when I sold it to the new owner, so I wanted to enjoy it as much as possible. But I'm sure that person who's getting that watch is going to enjoy it just as much as I did. So yeah, those were the watches that we saw on people's wrists. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and until next time.